The cold winds howled across the snowy lands of Vern Hollow. Tall pine trees stood frozen in silence, and a blood-red moon hung above like an angry eye. A lone figure moved through the thick snow, his fur cloak dragging behind him, his breath steaming in the icy air. It was Kellen, the banished werewolf. He wasn't part of any pack anymore. They had thrown him out long ago, calling him cursed and dangerous. Now, with nothing left to lose, he had crossed into the land of vampires, Nocturia. No werewolf had dared enter this land in centuries. It was a death wish. But Kellen had a reason. Something worse than war was coming. He reached the edge of the vampire territory, marked by old black stones and strange red mist. The moment he stepped over, the shadows moved. Red eyes blinked open in the trees. Sharp whispers floated through the cold. And then they came. 5 vampires surrounded him, their fanged shining faces pale like ice. They moved like shadows, smooth and silent. One of them raised her hand to strike. She was tall, dressed in dark silver armor with hair as black as night. She was Lady Varel, youngest daughter of the Vampire High Court. "A werewolf?" "Here," she said coldly, looking him up and down. "I come with a warning," Kalen said, his voice low but steady. The vampires laughed. One stepped forward, claws raised. "No beast walks in our land and lives." But Varel held up her hand. Her eyes narrowed. "Wait. He's not afraid." Kellen took out a scroll from inside his cloak and threw it at her feet. "Read it, or let the world burn." Varel picked up the scroll. Her sharp eyes moved quickly across the ancient symbols. For a moment, the cold air grew even colder. "The Blightfire eclipse," she whispered. Kellen nodded. "It's real. It will burn both our kinds unless we stop it. Only a cursed heart and a shattered fang can stop the flames. I am one. You are the other." The vampires looked at each other, unsure. Kalen's words were madness or prophecy. "Killed him," one hissed. "He lies." Viral's eyes met Kalen's. Deep down she saw something in him. Not just a werewolf, something else, something old. "No," she said. "Take him to the Crimson Council." The others protested, but she didn't listen. As they walked deeper into the vampire lands, Kalen whispered, "You may hate me now, but you'll need me soon." Virel didn't reply, but something in her chest stirred, a feeling she hadn't known in over 100 years. Fear, not of him, but of the truth he carried. The snow continued to fall, and far above, the red moon watched silently, waiting for fate to unfold. Inside the great stone halls of Nocturia, the air was cold and thick with old magic. Tall pillars rose like bones from the ground, and red flames flickered in hanging lanterns. Kellen stood in chains before the Crimson Council, the oldest and most powerful vampires in the realm. Their faces were pale and hard, eyes glowing with the red fire of centuries. Lady Varel stood beside him, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. She had brought him here, and now her reputation was at risk. Every council member looked at Kellen like he was filth on their boots. "He's a werewolf," growled Lord Wenger, a tall vampire with silver hair and cruel eyes. "He should be ash." "Hear him," Varel said firmly. "He carries a warning." Queen Velthra, the matriarch of them all, sat on a throne of bones. Her voice was cold and sharp. "Speak, beast, but know this, if your words are false, your death will be slow." Kellen raised his eyes. Even with chains on his wrists, he stood proud. "The Blightfire eclipse is coming. It will burn your skies, poison your blood, and kill every living creature. Vampire, werewolf, human, it won't care who you are." A quiet laugh moved through the chamber. "We've heard these tales before," Lord Malric sneered. "Myths told to scare children." "I've seen it," Helen said. "In the runes, in the dreams of dying seers. I followed the signs, and you know what it says. Only a union of cursed blood and shattered fang can stop it." "And you think you are that union?" Queen Velthra asked. Kellen nodded. "I'm cursed by both bloodlines." "And she?" He looked at Varel. has the fang of midnight. The ancient relic rests with her family. The council erupted in shouts. Blasphemy! He lies. Kill him now. Queen Velfra raised her hand and silence fell. You waste our time, Lady Varel, she said. This creature insults us in our own hall. Then let me prove my belief, Varel said, her voice strong. I invoke the life-bond vow. The council gasped. Even Kellen looked at her in shock. If he dies, she continued, so will I. You would tie your soul to a dog? Lord Vaynor spat. If it means saving our kind, yes. Queen Velfra stared at her for a long time. Then she gave a small nod. So be it, she said. But if you are wrong, both your ashes will be scattered to the winds. The chains were removed. Kellen stumbled, weak from days of hunger, but he looked at Varel with new eyes. Why? He asked softly. Because, she said, turning away, you may be our only hope. As they left the chamber, the snow began to fall outside once more. The sky darkened, and far above, behind the clouds, the cursed moon crept closer. The forest of Shadowpine was dark even in daylight. Tall trees stood like frozen statues, their branches heavy with snow. Silence ruled the land, broken only by the sound of footsteps, two sets, moving fast. Kalen and Varel had escaped the Crimson Council's reach, but only just. Behind them, vampire trackers hunted their scent. Ahead, unknown dangers waited in the deep woods. Varel moved with grace, her cloak swirling like shadows. Kellen followed behind, his senses sharp. The life-bond vow now tied them together. If one died, so did the other. They didn't speak much, but tension hung between them like fog. You could have let me die, Kellen said at last. You still can. Varel didn't look back. Then why are you walking beside me instead of running? Kellen didn't answer. Truth was, he didn't know. He had expected death, not protection. He had expected hate, not whatever this was. As night fell, they stopped in the ruins of an old stone outpost. The wind howled through broken walls. Kellen built a small fire while Varel checked the area. Her sharp eyes scanned the woods like a hunter. We're not safe here, she said. They'll find us. They'll have to go through me, Kellen replied. Varel looked at him, her eyes strange in the firelight. You really believe in this prophecy, don't you? Kellen nodded. I've seen too much not to. Just then, a low growl echoed through the trees. Kellen stood up quickly, sniffing the air. Something's coming. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, a woman with long tangled hair, claws for fingers, and glowing yellow eyes. Her skin was pale and cracked like dry earth. She was once a vampire, but now corrupted, a feral huntress. She hissed and lunged at Varel. Kellen moved faster than thought. He tackled the creature, claws clashing with claws, teeth snapping. The huntress was strong, twisted by some dark magic. She slashed his arm, drawing blood. Varel joined the fight, moving like a blade of shadow. Together, they managed to drive the creature back. Kellen pinned her to the ground, ready to tear her throat out. No, Varel shouted. Look at her, she's not in control. Kellen growled, blood dripping from his jaw. You're not a beast, she said softly. Not to me. His breath slowed. His claws retracted. He let the huntress go. She ran into the woods, screeching. Kellen collapsed beside the fire, panting. Varel knelt beside him, tearing part of her cloak to bind his wound. Why did you stop me? He asked. Because, she said, meeting his eyes. You don't need to prove you're more than a monster. I'd already know you are. The fire crackled. Outside, the trees stood still again. Something had changed between them. Something unspoken but powerful. And above the forest, the cursed moon continued its silent rise. The air smelled of damp stone and old secrets as Kellen and Varel reached the shores of Mirror Lake. The water lay smooth like glass, reflecting a moon that seemed too bright for the night. No one traveled here, for it was said that beneath the lake lived Arendelle, the blind oracle who spoke the future in riddles. Varel knelt at the edge, her pale fingers skimming the water. She will answer only if we prove our courage, she whispered. Kellen watched, heart pounding. He had never gone near deep water. His human mother drowned when he was a boy, and he had feared lakes ever since. I'll go with you, Varel said as she slipped into the cold. Her dress floated around her like dark petals. Kellen helped her down a hidden stone stair that led to a submerged door, carved with images of half-human, half-vampire faces. Inside, the palace was silent. Towers of coral framed broken windows, and algae draped the walls in green lace. The only light came from glowing crystals embedded in the ceiling, casting wavering patterns on the floor. Varel moved forward, calling softly, Arende, we seek your guidance. Her voice echoed underwater, calm and clear. Kellen hovered near the door, fear gripping him. He wanted to turn back to run, but he felt the life bond tug at his heart. If Varel needed him, he could not leave her. When Varel did not return, he plunged into the water. It was colder than ice. Pain shot through his lungs as he held his breath and pushed deeper. He saw her figure ahead, kneeling before a tall figure draped in silken robes that swayed like kelp. Arende rose slowly. Her skin was pale and smooth, her head shaved, and a single pearl rested on her forehead. Though blind, she sensed them before she spoke. You carry a bond older than time, her voice rippled like water. You seek to stop the Blightfire, but your way will cost more than blood. Varel exchanged a glance with Kellen. Her eyes glimmered with both hope and fear. Tell us what must be done, Varel said, her voice steady. Arende extended a hand. Only a child born of both wolf and vampire can choose the path of peace. Without such a life, the Blightfire will consume all. Kellen's heart sank, a child. He asked softly, but how can that be possible? Arende's voice grew distant, as if carried by currents. Love is the bridge. The life bond you share must grow into new blood. Only then will the eclipse break. Silence fell. Kellen's mind raced. He looked at Varel. She did not look away. What if we fail? He whispered. Failure is a choice, Arende said. Courage is another. Varel reached for Kellen's hand. For a moment, they floated there, suspended in that strange palace beneath the lake. Their breath caught in their throats, their souls bound by hope and terror. Above them, the blood moon dipped behind clouds. Mirror Lake shivered, as if it knew that the fate of both clans now rested on two hearts beating as one. The sky was gray when Kellen and Varel emerged from the forest's edge, their hearts still heavy with the oracle's words. They had little time to prepare. Vampire trackers closed in behind them, and the third blood moon was nearing its rise. Every step felt urgent, as if the very earth beneath them trembled with anticipation. Kellen adjusted the cloak across his shoulders, pressing closer to Varel's side. They moved quietly, hoping to slip past patrols under the cover of mist. Suddenly, the trees ahead parted and a company of black-armored riders blocked their path. At the front stood Prince Marthas, Varel's betrothed, his eyes alight with fury. His guard formed a half-circle, spears gleaming in the dull light. Varel, he called, his voice sharp as a blade. You have betrayed your blood for this beast. Varel stepped forward, her face pale but resolute. Marthas, she replied softly, this wolf carries the truth you refuse to see. She raised a hand, but the prince laughed. Truth. He spat. Your prophecy is a lie spun to weaken our rule. You would gamble our realm on the words of a creature you barely know. Kellen stepped between them, sensing the betrayal in Marthas's tone. The prince drew his sword in a single motion. Back off, Kellen warned, his voice a low growl. We have no quarrel with you, only with the coming darkness. Martha sneered and lunged. Kellen met the strike, metal crashing against claw. The guards closed in, forcing Varel back. She cried out as one soldier struck her arm, but she refused to flee. Kellen fought with feral grace, deflecting blows and driving guards back with swift strikes. Yet he was outnumbered, and a spear found its mark, piercing his side. Pain flared, and he stumbled. Marthas moved in, blade raised for a killing blow. In that moment, Varel lifted a hidden dagger. Time slowed as she plunged it into Marthas's chest. He gasped, shock on his face, then crumpled to the ground. His guards froze, unsure whether to fight or flee. Varel dropped to Kaelin's side, pressing her hand to his wound. Her cloak flared around them like a dark shield. "Are you alive?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Kaelin nodded, though pain made his vision swim. Behind them, Marthas's men dropped their weapons. No one dared challenge the life-bonded pair who had just defied prince and prophecy alike. Before Kaelin could speak, torches flared as more riders surrounded them. The Crimson Council's emblem gleamed on their armor. They dragged Kaelin and Varel back toward Noctheria, their chains heavy with accusation. In the cold night air, the prince's blood seeped into the snow, marking the line they had crossed. Kaelin's heart pounded. He felt the life bond tighten, binding him closer to Varel. They were now fugitives from both clans, their love and their mission more dangerous than ever. And as the torches led them down the path to judgment, the blood moon peeked from behind the clouds, its wicked light promising a reckoning that neither vampire nor werewolf could escape. Inside the trial grounds, the air smelled of ash and fear. Rows of black stones formed a circle around an open pit that glowed with dying embers. Torches flickered against tall walls carved with ancient runes. Kaelin and Varel stood at the center, their hands bound by silver chains that hummed with old magic. "Step forward," intoned an elder vampire whose voice echoed like distant thunder. His eyes were hollow coals. "You will walk the trial by flame. If you bear the bloodstone and survive, you earn mercy. If not, you become ash." Kaelin studied the pit. Flames danced across broken rocks, turning them red and white. The ground around it was scorched. Each step would test his strength and his bond with Varel. He looked at her. Her face was calm, but her pale fingers trembled on her cloak. She held the bloodstone in her hand, a small black gem that pulsed with her heartbeat. "Take her hand," the elder commanded. Kaelin reached out and Varel placed her hand in his. The chains tightened, drawing them closer. For a moment, their eyes locked. An unspoken promise passed between them. This trial was not just for one life, but for both of them, and for a future neither could imagine alone. With a silent word, the elder lifted the bloodstone and tossed it onto Kaelin's chest. The gem settled against his fur cloak, pressing into his heart. He felt its weight like iron. Then, with a slow nod, the elder took a step back. "Begin," he said. Kaelin stepped toward the glowing pit. The first rock hissed under his foot. Heat lashed his shin, but he did not falter. Behind him, Varel stood as still as stone, her gaze fixed on him. Each breath he drew rattled through the chains that bound them. He lifted one paw, then the other, until he was halfway across. A roar of disbelief rose from the gathered vampires. Some covered their mouths. Others stared in silent awe. Kaelin could feel the bloodstone heating against his chest, matching the flames below. Sweat and fur clung together as he pressed on. Dark shapes flickered at the edge of his vision. Visions of his past, of the hunters who drove him from his pack, of the seers who whispered doom. Pain flared in his muscles. He wanted to collapse, to scream, to run. But he felt another warmth, Varel's warmth, flow through the chain into his veins. It told him to stand, to fight, to believe. The flames grew taller. Glowing embers swirled like angry fireflies. Kaelin took the final step. His foot touched the far stone, and the fire's heat kissed his fur. He closed his eyes, bracing for agony. But instead of burning, he felt a surge of power. The bloodstone pulsed once, then quieted. The flames recoiled as if afraid. Silence fell. Then a voice broke it, soft but clear. He walks unburned. Varel wept without tears. Her knees buckled, and Kaelin caught her. He held her close, feeling her heartbeat slow. The chains dissolved in a flash of silver light, falling away like cobwebs. The elder lowered his head. "By fire you are proven," he declared. "The life bond lives." Outside, the third blood moon slipped from behind the clouds, casting a pale glow over the trial grounds. Kaelin and Varel stood together, free but changed. They had faced the trial by flame and survived. Now they bore the scars and the promise of a destiny older than either clan. The night air was thick with tension as Kalen and Virel gathered their loyal followers on the slopes of Mount Thorn. Rebels from both clans stood side by side, exiled werewolves with silver scars, vampires with pale skin and fierce eyes. They formed a circle around a shattered altar carved with ancient runes. Above them, the third blood moon glowed deep red, turning the sky into a sea of fire. Kellen stood before the group, his fur dark and matted from the trial by flame. He held the fang of Hollow Knight in his hand, a curved relic that pulsed like a living thing. He looked at Varel, who stood at his side. Her pale hair caught the moonlight, and her eyes shone with determination. "Tonight," Kalen said, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest, "we face the Blightfire eclipse. If we fail, our world dies." A hush fell over the rebels. Even the wind seemed to pause. Virel stepped forward, holding up a small vial of her own blood. "This blood binds us," she said softly. "Our life bond will guide the Fang's power, but we must stand together." She uncorked the vial and let a drop fall onto the altar. The runes glowed bright red. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through every soul there. Kellen placed the fang beside the blood. The relic absorbed the light, growing hotter and brighter. Sparks flew off its tip, dancing around like fireflies. The red sky reflected in every eye, making the rebels look like ghosts of war. Suddenly, the wind shifted. Dark clouds swirled around the moon, casting a deeper shadow across Mount Thorn. The air crackled with magic. From beyond the ridge, the Blight Reapers emerged, tall figures wrapped in smoky cloaks, eyes burning like coals. Their weapons glowed with cursed flame. The rebels gripped their weapons. Werewolves bared their claws, vampires drew their blades. Kalen raised the fang high. "Remember why we fight," he shouted. "For every life lost, for every tear spilled, for every dawn we hope to see." With a roar, the rebels charged. Kalen and Virel ran together toward the altar, cutting through the enemy ranks. Claws met steel and sparks flew. The fang glowed hotter as Kalen swung it, carving arcs of light through the darkness. Each strike shattered a reaper's form, sending ash drifting into the cold wind. Virel moved like a shadow beside him, her dagger flashing. She fought with precision, defending Kellen when he faltered. Her blood bond gave him strength, and his courage fed her magic. Together, they became a single force, unstoppable and fierce. As they reached the altar, the reapers closed in. Dozens of dark shapes circled them, spears raised. Kalen's breath came in ragged gasps. The fang's glow began to fade. Virel leaned close. "We must awaken the child's light," she whispered. "Together." Kellen nodded. He placed his hand over hers on the fang. Their blood mixed on the relic, and it flared with a brilliant white light that cut through the red sky. The blast blew the reapers back, their cloaks torn by pure energy. The altar cracked, and a column of light shot upward, piercing the clouds and shattering the moon's crimson below. For a moment, everything was silent. The red sky turned to pale silver. The Blightfire vanished like smoke. The reapers collapsed into ash. Kalen and Virel stood together at the altar, trembling. The rebels cheered, voices echoing across Mount Thorn. The blood eclipse was broken. In that moment, their world changed forever. The air was cool and quiet after the battle on Mount Thorn. The rebels lingered around the shattered altar, tending wounds and gathering scattered weapons. Kellen and Virel stood at the edge of the clearing, gazing at the clearing sky. The moon shone silver now, its crimson curse lifted. Kellen's body ached from every blow he had taken. His fur was singed where the fang's power had scarred him. Virel held him as he swayed, supporting him with gentle strength. Her own energy wavered. She had drawn deeply on her life-bond blood to fuel the final burst of light. "You saved us all," Kellen whispered, his voice thick with pain. "And you nearly gave everything to do it." Virel pressed her hand to his cheek. "We both did," she said softly. That blast was born of our bond. It was our love that broke the eclipse. Suddenly, figures emerged from the trees, a procession of elders and healers from both clans. They carried soft blankets, healing salves, and herbs. The matriarch of the Vampire High Court, Queen Velthra, walked at the front, her face grave but respectful. "It is done," she said, voice carrying over the quiet crowd. "The prophecy has been fulfilled." She paused, eyes on Kellen. "The savior of our world stands before us." Kellen bowed his head, wincing as pain shot through his side. Virel knelt beside him, wrapping him in a warm blanket. The healers tended to his wounds, their hands glowing with gentle magic. Werewolf and vampire alike watched, awed in their eyes. Queen Velthra turned to her people. "No more will we hunt one another," she declared. "No more will our clans be at war. From this night on, we stand as one." Murmurs of agreement rose among the rebels. As the matriarch spoke, a soft glow appeared at Varel's side. Kellen noticed it first, a tiny shape, luminous and warm. He blinked, realizing that the light took form. A child, no more than a few feet tall, with soft silver fur and pale skin. The child reached out a small hand and touched the fang of Hollow Knight, which still lay on the altar, now dark and silent. "Mother?" The child's voice was gentle, curious. "Father?" Virel's eyes filled with tears as she rose, lifting the child into her arms. Kellen stepped forward, kneeling to embrace them both. The child curled against his chest, then looked up, eyes bright like stars. "You are our future," Virel said, voice trembling with hope. "You are the bond that saved us." The child giggled, a sound like wind chimes, and reached for Kellen's ear, tugging gently. At that moment, something in the night shifted. The forest seemed to breathe. The moonlight shimmered through the trees as though blessing the new family. The queen approached, lowering her head. "On behalf of both clans, I name you the Moonblood Sovereign," she announced, voice echoing. "May your reign bring unity and peace." Kellen rose, holding the child in one arm and Virel's hand in the other. Behind them, the gathered werewolves howled once in celebration, and the vampires unfurled red banners in honor. The sound blended, wolf song and flute note, creating a melody as old as time. In that moment, under a gentle silver moon, the werewolf man once mocked became legend, the vampire woman once bound by duty found freedom, and their love became the first law of a new era. The world they knew had changed forever, and peace bloomed like a flower in the thawing snow.